Okay, this is totally off of what I normally do. So just recently I noticed my hot water heater. Well, I mean, recently, for about 2 years now, it's been making very little hot water. I mean, it doesn't last long. You go in the shower and it's gone in a few moments. It's a common issue with these things when they get older. And I know that because of watching a lot of YouTube videos, is what I do. I had figured out that my hot water heater up north had an issue with the cold water inlet. What happened was it had corroded and broke right here on the end of this inlet here. So I wanted to figure out how to repair that. And I'm up north now, so resources are not as amazing as they are here in the city. So I watched a few people on YouTube replace it, and it turns out this is a galvanized nipple, and it's connected to a copper fitting, which is soldered, welded, and welded, and welded, and welded, and welded to one of these, spin valves. They have a name for them. My intention today is to actually replace this, though it's not broken like the one up north. It has another problem. It's because of this inlet that it doesn't make as much hot water as it did originally. This is a 40-gallon, I believe. And the water comes in from the cold side, and it goes right like from the nipple down to the bottom, and it is mixed right above the burner. This is a gas one. And then that is heated up, and of course, heat rises, and it is received by this other line, and that's your hot water feed. The way you can tell is if I was to turn on the hot water right now in this sink, and if I was to time the amount of time it takes for that burner to turn on, you would know that it should be almost immediately, because the burner's down there and the sensor's right here. So the minute it senses it's cold, this turns on the fire. The fire boils the water and it rises. It could take up to like 2 to 3 minutes for this to turn on, which tells me that this needs to be replaced. Okay, that's one issue. The other issue is now we don't get near as much pressure as we did a week ago. And that is cloggage in this. So I am going to replace with a ball valve, replace this line with a flex line, replace this, it's called a dip tube. There's a new one right there, 2 of them actually. So I'm going to replace those. There's the flex lines. And I'm going to put this nice big 1/2-inch inlet on there. Everything here should be very easily removable. Whereas nothing here is removable. I have to cut everything off and then solder it on and all that. So that's my mission. First thing for me to do is to remove this stuff out of the way so I can jar all these out. You need a pipe wrench and all that to remove this, and zip discs and pipe cutters. So that's my plan. And I'll kind of share this with everybody. And there's another detail which I didn't know, and I'll go into that later on, which really annoys me because I know a lot about welding alloys and how they corrode. And there's a lot of different alloys: galvanized, copper, brass, steel. And they have a means of trying to reduce that with things. And I didn't know about that, but I know now, and I'm going to show that to you. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so you see that word anode? That's on the top of this hot water tank. In behind this cap is a 1 1 1/16 of an inch bolt head that you got to remove to replace this part. This is a sacrificial part that it is suggested that you replace once a year. This is a 15-year-old tank. I've never replaced this at all. So I'm just making this video. This is part of the video. I did go to purchase this particular part. When I asked for it at Home Hardware, the gentleman that I asked said in the 29 years of his being a hardware manager, never even heard anybody ever ask for one of those, which I found pretty funny because all the other parts were readily available. Of course, you can get these parts on Amazon, which I will display. Preferably, you'd want the magnesium anode, and there's a choice between that and aluminum. And what this does is once you remove the old one and you put a new one in, you're going to notice it's going to be all deteriorated and rusty, and it's going to have all kinds of corrosion on it. And that is a sacrificial piece so that the tank itself does not get attacked by those properties, but that piece does. And preferably magnesium versus aluminum. If it has a sulfur smell, that would be your choice. And this is what I'm bringing up to light. I'm not going to replace it in this tank because I don't own this tank. We're renting it. These parts that I've added to this tank, or I'm adding to this tank, will be actually for the tank coming when I decide to put it in. It will be the exact same spec and everything, just a brand new version of it. And I will replace that annually, that anode. So that was what I had mentioned earlier, and I'm showing it now. Okay. So here I removed my vent fan and the control panels for it. So there's no power going to this whatsoever. Now the object is to, oh, I can feel the cold air coming in from outside right here. So to remove these, I want to replace that, so I'm going to cut this whole thing off right here, and then I can unscrew this whole thing. Okay. Yeah, so cut this here and then unscrew this here. Okay, so it's cut. All right, now I got to undo this. Okay. Looks like I don't know, something's broken. So that's the first line that came off. Now we got to remove this nipple. Okay, this is the cold line in. Okay, so we're replacing everything. Okay, so the nipple's out, and you can see that there's no hose on it. That's why you get very limited hot water. There is not a lot of corrosion on this. This is impressive. I guess we don't have very hard water. So, yeah, getting this out was a bit of a thing. I might have to do a little bit of pounding to get this thing to sit. So this can go in there. Again, this one gets threaded in the same way. I used a pipe, and I put an extension with a socket on it to get it off. It was tight, so I'll be doing that again. Yeah, when that is broken off, that is the main reason you don't get very much hot water. You get a very little amount. The piece is actually still in here, and I will not be able to recover that, so it's going to stay in there. And that happened to my cottage too. So yeah, I guess you're just gonna have to shove it over and thread this in. Now my next order of business for this is to kind of gauge where I want to cut it, which is just going to be, bottom's going to go to about there, just like the height of the, little bit higher than that valve. So I'm going to be cutting off about that much. Okay, next order of business. Okay, so the nipples are off. I feel some crust in there. So this is just a test run. I bought two. This is going to go in the hot water side. I cut it. I'm going to put it back in. Teflon tape it up, thread that back in. as tight as I can get it. Here I'm going to use this one as a gauge. I'm going to mark where I should cut this and then transfer it onto that tube over there. And then I'll have my two fittings back together, and then I can start working on the connectors. So, thus far. Okay, so I put this dip tube in for the hot water, just for sizing. The hot water dip tube's been put in. Now I'm working on soldering these up. Okay, the water's back on. No leaks. The hot water line's pretty hot. No leaks. Now let's put the vent back on. Okay, it's all back together. It's running right now. The minute I turned on the hot water, this came on, which is the sign that it's all proper. Everything's good. I was getting really low pressure on the hot side. Now I turn it on, and it's fine. That's full blast. I'm going to turn up the main house pressure. Open it right up. Okay, that's right up to full. That valve has to be changed. Okay, full blast. Okay, hot water, nice. Back in action.